This is Fireside Chat with me, Johnny B. All right, hey, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in with us again. We're sitting down and continuing our story with Marine Corps veteran Josh Bird. So in the last episode, we were talking about the shenaniganry going on over in Iraq. You had just proposed to your girlfriend. Y'all were still engaged. You're on your first deployment. You're in Iraq. First push in Fallujah. Y'all are acting like knuckleheads. Typical
Yeah,
Marines.
that's typical.
And I think that's where we left off.
Yeah. Well, I'll get started. Well, back where we left off. So, with the war in Iraq, I mean, the weapons of mass destruction, and we're looking for all that stuff. I'm new to the whole thing. I've barely been in the Marine Corps for maybe a year or two, um, and here I am, my first deployment. I knew I was going to go to war. I knew it was going to happen, but I was okay with that. I accepted that. 9/11 didn't scare me, and if anything, it pumped me up. So I was there doing what I was supposed to be doing. And but it's sometimes it was still kind of scary though. All the new things to get you prepared. Like nothing gets you prepared for that kind of stuff. Things that you see or the things that happen. And um, what's weird is Marines, the way we act and the way we are. If we're not, I perform really well under pressure. If we're not under pressure, we're gonna get bored and do. That's when we screw up and do something stupid.
Yeah, I don't think there's really anything to prepare you for that level of chaos. I mean, like you can do all the training that you want to do, but without being in the situation, there's no way to gauge how intense it's going to be and prepare you for that.
Yeah, and then to be thrown in some of the most intense part of war right off the bat. I just think back to like World War II or World War One, like D-Day, or even World War One in the trenches, and your first, coming into the LZ, hot LZ. It kind of reminds me of the U-boats and Saving Private Ryan on D-Day. We're just open the hatch and people are getting mowed down. Haven't even
Yeah.
touched land yet, and it's like, wow, that's what that felt like. And um but your senses are just like I said, they're just constantly turned on high all the time. You're always high on that adrenaline, constantly. There's no backing off of that, even when you get back. But towards the end of that one, we were doing a convoy, and um people from my unit, like people that we work with, I remember, and picture this: Iraq 2004. We didn't have up armored Humvees. We didn't have the armor. We had paper doors.
Mm-hmm.
We had the sandbags that we filled. Yeah, that was our armor. You
Oh
put it
wow.
on the floor. You stack it up, alongside of you. So you're sitting in some. You're basically sitting in sandbags, on or in sandbags. But that doesn't. That's not good. That doesn't save you from explosions at all. Heck, even up armored vehicles get exploded. They can explode.
Right.
Well, we're on a convoy. We're going to Baghdad, and so we are. I forgot where we were, but it was just some little nothing little village. But it was a hot spot for Al Qaeda and like bandits, and um, we're driving, we're riding. The convoy is spread out about half a mile apart, and it's pretty long. It's like 20 or 20 or so vehicles in the convoy, and I'm in a 7 ton, and there's like 6 Marines in the 7 ton, and the troop carrier personnel carrier, 7 ton, and you got a driver and then a driver, and then and every time you stop, you have to get out and provide security. But if you get ambushed and you don't have to stop, you just you push through, you get out of there. You don't want to stay there and get pinned down.
Right, because then you're just a target.
Yeah, you're a target. Well, they had they used some vehicle borne IDs, some VBIDs, um, and what they like to do is drive up close to the convoy and try to get in between. But your job is to you fire warning shots, and then if they don't,
If they don't heed those.
if they don't heed those, you shoot into the driver window. And
Mhm.
it could you don't know. It could be a civilian. They use their own family as bombs. And you're like, it has a family in there, but it's they're trying to kill you. Not that whole family is taught to kill you. What's sad is what we learned is Saddam's people would go into to try and destroy us would overtake families and basically be like, if you don't work for me, I'm killing your whole family. So even if they didn't want to, they still have to. Like they would rather kill you than have their family die. But what the sad part is, they still had to work for Saddam, and their family still died. Whether Saddam killed them or they tried to run a vehicle full of explosives with their family in it up next to a convoy. Long story short, it was sad, and those are the things you can't not see. You can't just put those out of your memory or drink those things away. But so this vehicle was able to get in. There's like two vehicles ahead of us, and at this point we had to close in. Unfortunately, we had to close up the convoy a little bit, so we're closer to get a little bit closer together. But at least we could visibly see each other. And this vehicle got up and two vehicles ahead of ours, and just ignited and just blew it. I don't remember how many pounds of TNT, but it was enough to fill it like two vehicles away. But I'm talking two vehicles. There was a couple. It was a couple of blocks because we were going through this village. But it was like a couple of blocks away. Well, I mean, obviously, whoever's in that, like, it was like the way we were stacked. It was like a contact team, a Humvee with like four Marines and like equipment to fix vehicles that break down real quick in between, and it's like every staged out every other 7 ton full of troop carriers, but every 7 ton had anywhere from 6 to 8 Marines in the back. But it was so much TNT that they got up alongside of it and they detonated, and that truck was like in flames instantly. Like no one could have escaped that. And these are people you work with every day.
Yeah.
So I think there was like 6 Marines in the back and 2 driving. And so but there were other, like, you couldn't stop. Like we couldn't stop for them. There was nothing to stop for. They were just gone. And we drive by and you're just seeing this vehicle and you have so many emotions. Like that could have been me, or those were my friends, those are my brothers and sisters. You're just like, at this point you're angry and you just want to shoot everybody you see, just everybody that's not American.
Yeah.
You just want to shoot
Well, at the
everything.
same time, I mean, you can't stop.
You can't stop.
If you stop and you get out, now you're a target.
Now you're a target, and besides, the vehicle's in flames. Everybody in that thing was dead. There's no saving anybody. So you're just, in your mind, you're like, what? But in your mind is so lost. You're like, but we're supposed to stop. We're supposed to but there's no one to save. But at the same time, you're just, in your mind, you're like, you're supposed to stop. Like, how could we just leave them? But no one's alive. So you're trying to deal with all the emotions all at once, and we just keep rolling on by, and because I guess there's no closure there. There should be, but there should be closure, but there's not, because you just witnessed something extremely tragic.
Yeah. So there's no real way to get closure.
You can't, you know. There's no bringing them back. There's no saving anybody's lives. It was just you keep moving,
Yeah.
and that's it. Like that's when you learn to, like, even if they're like your closest friends, like you have a mission, and you just have to stop. You just have to push through. And
Yeah.
so that from, I think that moment on started a dangerous trait. I didn't realize I have an addictive personality, and I was already addicted to alcohol, and then get in the Marine Corps, and that just makes it worse. And then go to combat and see things, and that just makes it worse. And you come back to your loved ones, and you can't turn it off.
Right.
My wife could tell I was a different person, like totally different. Like, but then you get back, and so we finally did, and we we got married, and we went to we went to Las Vegas to get married. I think we took like a limo. We took a weekend and we drove straight out. A friend of ours drove straight out there, and um, we invited our parents, but at each side of our parents, but they didn't. They were not okay with the way we were doing things because they were so young. I don't know what it was, but my wife had a harder childhood than I did. Like, just it was insanely different. But it was just really us and some friends. But we got dressed up. Um, we went to the little white wedding chapel where Britney Spears got married in Las Vegas.
I mean, that's how you know that everything's gonna be great, right?
But we didn't. It wasn't a $10,000 wedding. It wasn't like this fancy wedding. I think it was $50 to get married there. I mean,
I mean, look on the plus side. You're getting married and you're not starting off in debt.
yeah, because we didn't have any money
At
to
least
start off
that.
in debt. Um, I mean, it was 50, we did justice of the peace kind of marriage, and then we went to that little wedding chapel and $50, and and um, what's funny is there's a lot of our friends did all the big giant huge weddings, and they're divorced like three times over. Here we didn't even do a big wedding. We did something on our own, and just like literally a handful of friends that we had at the time, and here we are 18 years later. So it really doesn't matter how it happens, as long as that it does happen and it's the right person. And this woman is like the strongest woman I know. She's been through way more than I have in her childhood. Like, she should be a totally different person. She should be, you know, multiple times counselors would say you should be like strung out on drugs or being, at a rehab. Like, you should. Most people that grow up in her situation that she grew up in are drug addicts and alcohol abusers and just not great people. But that's the point. God, when God is in your life, he uses you. He gets you through those things to use you for his purpose.
And from what I've found out, I'm sure you found out the same, that when he's using you for his purpose and to bring glory to his kingdom, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, you're able to walk through life and not have a stigma of shame, from your past circumstances. You're able to look at that and say, you didn't conquer me, I conquered you. But I mean, it's not like I did it on my own, but I conquered you through my relationship with Christ.
And that's exactly it. I mean, there's not shame, but there's still hurt there, but it's not shame anymore or guilt. It's now that it was the love of the Father. He carried you through, and he's always there. Um, but this is part of his plan. Like, the craziest things you could ever think about, you're like, that can't work. It doesn't even make any sense. But God will calmly, he's good about calmly and humbly telling you, like, it's not your plan. Your plans aren't going to work. Mine do, though. And then you just kind of watch it unfold. But I wasn't. I didn't give my life to Christ just yet. It wasn't until later, like probably a year later or so, is when I did. It was it was in It was October or no, it was not October. I'm sorry. It was like January of '06 when I gave my life to Christ. Um, I don't remember the exact day. I want to say it was probably the 15th. It was somewhere in the middle. But but I do remember that we got married and we were back in enough time to get married, do all that. You know, we finally we lived with friends in we shared apartments with friends until um I guess yeah, come to thinking about it, for the whole entire year until my unit was like, guess what? We're going back to the same hole that we came out of. We blew it up. Now we're going to go patch it back up and build things for them and all the stuff we destroyed.
Yeah, because that's not confusing to a bunch of Marines.
Yeah, that was really dumb to us. We felt like we wasted our time, you know. So we got married, and then we found out my wife was pregnant with our first one, our oldest now. Now our oldest is almost 18, but she was uh she was born. I got to see the birth. I was there for about 2 weeks. Then I left for a whole another year while my wife went and lived with my parents back home. And
So just so I understand, so your wife,
mm-hmm,
brand new baby,
mm-hmm,
goes home to live with your parents, whom you already
yeah,
didn't have a
exactly.
stellar relationship with, and it was a toxic environment,
Uh-huh.
and now
Mm.
she's there with the baby.
Yeah, because there was literally nowhere else to go. Like, couldn't go to her parents' house because her and her father were not on speaking terms, and they haven't been for several years before that. Um, like with her situation, it was so bad. It was so bad. At 17, she ran away because it was so bad
Oh man.
with her father. I'll just put it that way. But I was like, I did, you know, I didn't know. Well, the people that she was living with in high school, those people were psychotic people. Like the lady that she was, her name was Connie Oliver, and that lady was an insurance lady, and she kept telling my wife, she wanted to take an insurance policy out on her for like $2 million. My wife's like, I'm not even I'm just staying at your house for a few months. I don't know who you are. You're weird. That's weird. Well, there's something to that because that lady turned out she had two husbands, but both husbands magically died somehow, and she collected insurance from them. It was just
Mm.
some kind of weird. We
Yeah, purely coincidence,
yeah,
of
we just feel
course.
like yeah. So once before I got married to my wife, and you know, there's like a small window of something before deployment and everything when we got engaged right before the deployment. Like I told my parents about the situation, and she started living with my parents then, so she was already kind of living with my parents a little bit.
So it was a toxic
It
environment,
was
but
toxic.
nowhere near
Both
what
other
it could have been.
Yeah, so my parents were the best of
The lesser of,
the lesser of the two
yeah,
evils. It was either her dad, which wouldn't have happened, or that lady probably would have like killed her and collected on her life insurance. That's what we think. So my parents were the better option.
yeah.
So they were kind of already used to her, and they agreed. They let her stay and all that. And plus, now they have their grandbaby, so of course, you know, there's that. Um, so I went right back to Fallujah, right back. But by then they had built up that base, and there was a lot of defects, and it was totally looking. It was a totally different area.
So at least now you're not sleeping in the
Yeah,
freshly
yeah.
blood, sweat mopped floors.
And now it was more like they had like portable trailers with bunks racks in them, and so there was that. It was like instead of tent city, it was, or that other place, it was the portable trailers, and they had built it up and more. They fortified it more. Now it still got rocketed and mortared. It just wasn't as much. And then I didn't convoy as much this time. I got to do my job and get into maintenance, and I did, you know, I flew here and there to different bases, and like I did convoy to resupply vehicles and weapon systems, but I wasn't the one in charge. I just kind of I was a supporter, and you did have to take your turns like on the wall. They had like guards on the wall that you had to guard, like East Gate. The East Gate was the worst gate to guard because they would get shot at, or they try to run vehicles through there, or blow up the guards and things
Any,
like that.
is there any particular reason they were focusing on that one gate?
I don't know. Um, I couldn't I don't know why, but they were coming from that direction, and that could be why.
Maybe if someone's listening and they know, maybe y'all can comment down in the comments area and let us know if you have that answer.
Yeah, if you're in Fallujah, um, this time it was '06 to '07, or yeah, and or the end of '05 to '06. That's what it was. So I don't know. The East Gate took a lot more flack than any other gates, and I'm not sure why the ECP was very popular. Um, but yeah, there was. I mean, this time I was doing maintenance, and we had made a lot of holes, vehicle size holes, so we could park our vehicles to where if uh, you had incoming, they're not standing out in the open. They're kind of buried into these like trenches where you can park them and have a better chance of surviving the blast, or whatever the case,
Yeah.
and they won't get torn up, like tires aren't going to blow out, or engine, because it's kind of they're kind of if you look at the motor pool area, it just looks flat. You can't see vehicles. Well, it's because we dug out trenches to fit these giant trucks in, or Humvees, or whatever vehicles that we had at the time they could fit inside of these things. And I became friends with one of the one of the armorers there, and I would hang out at the armory, and I would help him out at the armory. And with that '06 deployment, it was a whole entire year long. It was 12 months long. And the things that I saw, I still kind of didn't really deal with the first deployment, with all the issues, and the loss of friendships and things like that. I have not dealt with that. And after that deployment, I just developed a worse drinking habit, because everybody wants to get you drinks anyway, but then that's what I used to cope. I just drank. I became an alcoholic, essentially.
Yeah, that was your medicine of
That was my
choice.
medicine of choice. In the second deployment, you know, for the I was friends with friends in high places. I had friends at the armory, and I had friends in supply, where for the Marine Corps birthday, they flew in beer and had the little mini shots, and the supply guy had like um a freaking sea bag full of mini shots, and he would just hit them. And
Because that's not a bad idea.
yeah, that's a horrible. Yeah, we finished. I think there's a group of 14 of us living in the same area, and we finished that thing in like a month.
Mm.
And I had it out there when I shouldn't have. And then one of my sergeants, his mom would send a Listerine bottle, the amber looking bottle.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't Listerine, it was tequila.
Oh wow.
Because I mean, it looked like Listerine, but you wrap it up and put tequila in it, and Jose Cuervo is in it, and there's that. And so,
So she knew she was enabling.
oh yeah, his mom was hooking us up. And we'd have our little nightcaps. And then what's really, really bad and scary, and it would be scary thinking about it now, but then it was just nothing. We ran out of alcohol, and we'd tell our families to send us NyQuil, and I wouldn't even measure I would gulp the NyQuil and just pass out. And that would be my medicine to go to sleep. To be able
Just to be able to go to
I
sleep.
couldn't go to sleep.
Right.
Well, then at some point in that deployment, before I got to go home in R&R, I was made one of the detention center guards. So you have to go get shot by beanbag rounds, and you get tased, and you get maced, and
All the fun things.
yeah, you get
just
to
so
be a
you know what's going on.
yeah, for about a week you get to be a prisoner, basically, to see what it's like. just to understand non-lethal tactics and how they can be lethal if you use them wrong, and how basically what you're doing is they have more rights than you do. So you mess that one up, you could be in Leavenworth for a long time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, these duties were given to like more mature. I was a lance corporal and almost a corporal. I wasn't quite a corporal yet. Well, I did pick up corporal right before. So yeah, I was an NCO by now. But
Yeah.
because of that, I mean, I had to do my duties, and it was like every other day I had to report to the detention facility, or I was kind of on call for it. So I was doing my maintenance duties, but there was a couple other people that were doing it as well. So that way it allowed me to uh, work at the detention facility at night. And so I'd be a night guard.
Mm.
And so, but then I would switch over to days, and then go to work, but then do some guard duty after work. And it was like, I got to figure out how to stay in shape too, because you can't be a fat Marine and get heavy.
Yeah, because even amongst all the other things you're doing, you can't let that go by
Well,
the
you can't.
wayside.
You have to still get haircuts, and you have to shave your face. I don't care if you're the Marine Corps way.
Yeah.
You're in combat. You're still somehow you're still having clean camis, a
Hmm.
shaved face, and a clean haircut.
In the
Like
middle of combat.
in the
Yeah,
middle
you
of
still got to
combat,
do your twice annual PFT.
got to do the well. Yeah, if you can, but yes. I remember that base was 9 square miles around, and I would run it with my team. And I remember doing like a half marathon one time. Basically, I mean, we weren't trying to do a marathon, but we ran 13 miles, and it took us like just shy of like maybe an hour.
Hmm.
I mean, we were. Well, I felt like we were barely jogging it, because in that I was the best shape of my life at that point in time.
Yeah, I think a lot of us were.
Yeah, I think really
Unfortunately, we
so.
get out and
I think I was barely 19. Actually, I think my first deployment I was like barely 19. This one I turned 21 while I was there in Iraq, so I didn't get to celebrate. That was you hear about when I was 21 we got drunk at the bar, blah blah blah. I was in Iraq shooting at people or getting shot at, one of the two.
yeah.
I did a couple of convoys where I was a gunner on one, and I remember I was using the 50 cal Ma Deuce, and we would get fire, and I'd have to return fire. Like that's the rules of engagement. You get fired on, you return fire. But most of the fire that I shot at people were like suppressive fire, so we can. Part of my job was to get out of there, get us out of there. Suppressive fire. So I mean, you're aiming in the direction, but it's not a well aimed shot like a sniper or anything. But I mean, now they did quit firing whenever I'd shoot back. They quit firing. So I don't know if it's because they're scared of the Maudus, or maybe they weren't alive to shoot anymore. But we just kept rolling after that.
Or at least you were shooting in their vicinity, and
They're like, yeah, I
I don't
mean,
think anybody likes that.
yeah, no, not really. But then, uh, by God's grace, I hadn't gotten sick. I had got sick, and I could not go on the next convoy. Well, the next convoy, we encountered a new situation, and it wasn't anyone from our unit, but a unit before us. Like two gunners got their heads cut off because they were putting out razor wire or trip wire, but it's like the really thin wire. When you're going 55 miles an hour, and that thing, and you can't see that wire.
Yeah.
I mean, and it gets you in the neck. Like the force of the vehicle is going to keep going forward
Hmm.
while you're pinned up against the turret while your head's coming off. I mean, something's got to give, right? Well, it was it decapitated a couple of people on the very next convoy, and I was like, I was supposed to be a gunner too.
Wow.
And I was like, that could have been me, because
Should
we
have
didn't. Nobody knew, like,
should have been you, like, by scheduling purposes.
by scheduling, but I
Yeah.
got sick, and
Wow.
so I dodged that one. Well, by God's grace, I didn't dodge that. God has a purpose for me, so
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be alive. Um, and I was like, but to me, I was like, oh, well, cool, dodge that one, whatever. All right. You know, not thinking about it. It's just a normal everyday thing. Was like, okay, well, I live to fight another day. Great. So, um, and then you'll get these prisoners that come in, um, and that the next thing is you're having to deal with them because they try to do everything to make you touch them or like get rough with them because they know that's bad for your health.
Yeah, the second you do, you're in trouble.
You're in lots of trouble.
And they're
They'll
trying
come.
to they're trying to suck you into that.
They
Yeah.
are definitely because they'll come from. We transfer from, or we'll de- they'll the teams will be out in town and they'll detain them for whatever reasons. Like I don't know what it was, just like they weren't supposed to have a weapon or they didn't, it wasn't registered, or they're not supposed to be in that area of operation, and so they couldn't explain why they were, so they got detained, obviously. And so, but some of those guys are straight right after a battle. You just capture a few of these guys, and they'll be like, "Yeah, I was the mortar man. I shot your buddy. I blew up your buddy. Like, what are you gonna do about it? You can't do nothing about it." And so that's, you can't do anything, but your buddy, Bob there,
Bob the CIA
Bob
man.
the CIA man, and you got the psychological operations team, and you got Navy SEALs that are allowed to interrogate, and they're allowed to do certain things like pull teeth and rip fingernails and break fingers to get information.
Yeah, the stuff you see in the James Bond movies.
That was real. And so I was the prison guard, so I had to move these people to interrogation rooms. And right after, what was ironic is right after this dude was basically like spoke spoke perfectly good English to tell us that he blew up our Marines. I was like, why would this idiot tell a group of Marines that he blew up Marines? Like, that's bad for his health.
Mm-hmm.
And so the joke was like, hey buddy, you get to go see Bob, and he's still talking crap. And we're sitting down in the next room just waiting for him to get done being interrogated, and there's literally just, it's a metal wall, and you hear this dude screaming, and you hear teeth getting pulled and like with pliers, and
Like you could actually
you can
hear
hear
that
the
part.
crunching
Oh
part,
my
and
goodness.
like the man, every time they rip a nail, he's like screaming, and he's like apologizing and telling them everything they want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I cannot imagine doing that job, like bringing on the pain, like breaking stuff and ripping teeth. Like, you have to be a different person.
Yeah, I mean, we experienced some trauma, but I mean, imagine what these guys are trying to go through now
Like, you have to
after the
be
fact.
checked out completely. I feel like you have to be checked out to do that kind of stuff to people,
Yeah.
even if they are bad guys. Like, I'd rather just kill them and get it over with.
Yeah.
I don't like the whole
As
torture.
morbid as that is,
That's better than torturing people, I think,
yeah.
to get information. But like anymore, my wife, every time the kids like pull teeth or something, I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
get freaked out. Like,
Yeah. Takes you back.
it does. And my kids, I don't know that I've shared too much with her, so sometimes she doesn't understand. But like, definitely, like when fingernails get broken or ripped, I'm like, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it. Don't want to hear about it.
Hmm.
And I get serious and kind of upset. And they're like, it's just fingernails. I'm like, but you don't
Yeah.
understand.
For you, it's just fingernails, but for me, it's
It's a whole different thing. Like, you
yeah.
hear screaming and torture. I don't watch horror movies or scary movies like that because I've already lived through it.
Hmm.
And it's not that
You don't need to be
I don't
reminded.
want to be reminded because I lived through horror movies. I can't even look at ground beef the same way.
Hmm.
Uh, I've been around burn pits. I guarantee you I have the stupid cough, and it's probably has something to do with that. But I remember going to burn pits and throwing trash in there, and like body parts would roll out. Like, instead, like when you're done with the enemy, like where else are you gonna put them? You gotta bury them. I don't. You gotta do something with the
Yeah.
disposal of the bodies, and so they burn them, and it stinks, and it's disgusting.
Wow.
And so when people like you have a barbecue and your hair get burnt and you smell burnt hair, it just makes me sick
Hmm.
because it is. you smell those smells times 10. Like that's what war smells like you just burning flesh, and it's disgusting.
So now I know if we have you over for dinner, cook all the venison before you get there, then
You know what? The animal and what the weird part is like animal smell when you cook an animal is totally different than human being smell.
mhm,
It's just way different. And so you know that if as long as I can see that it's venison and I know that that's what you're cooking.
yeah,
And, but but there's a distinct smell, and it's just those you don't think about those things, but it takes me back, and then I have to just walk away from the situation. Used to I would get all upset, and but that I in doing that I think gave my family PTSD because my PTSD is theirs and they just don't understand, and maybe I haven't ever explained it,
yeah,
but those simple little things are not simple to me. It's a whole different thing.
oh yeah,
um well, there's that kind of trauma, and then just again your adrenaline is just always kicked on and you cannot sleep, you just can't sleep. So my remedy, if since the alcohol wasn't there, it was the NyQuil. I got addicted to gulping NyQuil. It would be like, instead of the cap full, I'll just throw that away, and it would be like 3 gulps a
oh
night.
wow,
And it's like, I wonder what that's doing to your liver and internals. But
not anything good, I would
no,
imagine.
man. And then me and Buddy got involved in another dumb thing that could have got me in lots of trouble. Towards the end, we're we were ordered to like bury our vehicles and like bury our unexploded ordnance. Some of like I don't know, it was weird. Like we had to bury our vehicles
Bury your vehicles.
before we rolled out.
Like, what was the purpose of that?
It was cheaper to leave them than take them back
Oh,
overseas.
yeah,
But it's like,
kind of like what happened recently with.
yes, so it's a
Yeah,
repeat. That's why that stuff was like, well, we sat here and built them structures, and then we have to abandon those too. So instead of taking our vehicles back, we're just supposed to bury them, like totally functional, because we don't want them to have them. So I mean, there's some ammo and there's some things that you toss in the back and you bury it.
yeah, we don't want them to have them, but we're just gonna leave them here for you.
Yes, somebody's gonna find them. All you need is a good old metal detector, and then
Yeah,
someone's gonna find that stuff. Or
it
some
doesn't take long.
no,
They're watching the whole time.
they are really good at doing that. Um, well, so we were disposing of accounting for and disposing of ammunition that was old or not used, or stuff that you can safely take back or ship to the states. I mean, the ammo guys, or whatever those ammo technicians, whatever those guys are, they handle that stuff. Well,
EOD.
there's EOD, but each unit has an ammo tech. Literally, it's like ammo tech, where their job is to literally count ammo one at a time and
Oh wow.
check it off. And your counts they have to be, surprisingly, these Marines have to be good at math.
I mean, if you thought you had a boring job, now you can look at this and say
Well,
maybe it's not so bad
it's
after all.
boring until your ammo counts are off, and then your job is in jeopardy.
Yeah,
And it's like, I've worked with them, and I was like, I didn't know this is a real thing. I guess it is. um, I mean, it makes sense because they plan and schedule all the training exercises, and they have whatever different. It's more than just counting ammo. There's a lot more that goes into it. But like, if you're a private, obviously you're just literally 1, 2, 3. But I guess staff NCOs, it gets more like you're doing training schedules, and you're having to supply and purchase ammo for the unit and
hmm
supply it properly, safely, all the hazardous duties, all the hazard certifications, and the logistics of the ammo has to get from point A to point B, and that staff NCO's job is to um, assign ammo to people, like what their billet or their rank or their purpose, their mission. They assign ammo to units.
hmm
So it's more than that. But long story short, but I was friends with the armorer who is not an ammo technician who doesn't need to have ammo. And so we have this, it looks like a flashbang grenade, and it wasn't on any kind of count ammo paperwork counts or anything. So basically, it technically didn't literally exist.
Yeah, on paper it doesn't
On
exist.
paper, it doesn't exist. So if it doesn't exist in black and white, then it just doesn't exist.
Right.
And so they're like, dude, we should totally like just say we gotta fill sandbags and go blow this thing up somewhere. Well, it was a riot control CS gas grenade.
Oh boy. That's
And we're like,
for anyone out there listening, if you've ever been around mace or tear gas when it's ever been shot off, those riot control grenades are not fun.
dude, these are worse. And so they blow and they sound very loud and it's very hard to cover up.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's still a concussive blast that goes with
it is, but yeah, there's that because it's like a flashbang. Like a flashbang is the same, like but the flash and then
it. Right.
the noise and the percussion of it. By this time I've been around so much percussion, like my ears constantly ring anyway, and now I have to wear hearing aids that I'm not even 40 yet. In fact, 2019, 4 or 5 years ago, probably a little over that, but like, or less than that, but like, I was diagnosed with like bilateral hearing loss, like severe, and then I have ringing in my right ear. Always had ringing in my right ear, but now I'm starting to get it in my left. And yeah, I'm at the VA and they're like measuring my ears after a hearing test, and I was like, "Why do you? It's a hearing test, right? Yeah, you need hearing aids." I'm like, "No, I don't."
Yeah, it's a hearing test and you failed.
Like 5 times, like miserably failed. Like in a sentence, if I don't have my hearing aids in, I could totally misrepresent or misinterpret what you said, and it's totally a different story than what you're trying to tell me, and it
Mm-hmm.
starts arguments and all kinds of stuff because I thought you said something totally different.
Yeah.
And anyway, uh, I'm we have this thing, this stupid grenade. It's technically doesn't exist. We're like towards the end of our deployment, not much going on. You have a few mortar attacks here and there. Oh man, me and my friend get this stupid idea. Stupid idea. Why? I don't know. Boredom set in
I think we
again.
covered that in the last
Yeah, we
episode.
did. This
You
is
have Marines and they're
God.
bored. Kind of
Uh,
like sailors. If you have a bunch
that's
of
why
bored sailors,
it's like
we're
it's
gonna do
better.
dumb things.
It's better for us to just eat crayons and be done.
Right.
I wish we just done that. Well, oh man, where do I start with this? And so it was a windy day, and before that, we had the idea of, well, next time we get mortared, we'll dig a hole and we'll blow this thing, and that will be our cover. Like they won't hear it. The mortars will go off, and
Nothing could go wrong with this
no,
plan.
totally nothing. So we were just like, no, this is gonna work. We were just dying to see what this. It could be a flashbang grenade. It could be something. We were probably about 60-40 on the it's a CS gas grenade. So we don't really technically know.
So the wind is blowing.
Wind is
For
blowing.
the sake of the story, please tell me it's blowing in your direction.
It's not.
Oh,
What's worse is blowing towards Tent City,
oh no. Oh
where
no.
officers and staff NCOs and other personnel that work is blowing in that direction.
Nothing could go wrong
But we weren't thinking about the wind. We were just focused on the sound.
now. Mm-hmm.
Well, sure enough, we start getting mortared. And like, here's our chance. We've already dug this hole, like 4 or 5 feet deep, like holes,
Mm-hmm.
as deep as the shovel. Like, sure, it'll just blow up, and like the sound will go straight up, and no one will hear it. We're not thinking about the wind, not thinking about what it is. Once you pull the pin, there's no putting it back in.
Right.
Really, you can't put it back in the same way. It's
No.
just not going to fit the same way. It's not like the movies where you've seen some movies where they try to put it back in and like fold it. No, once it triggers something in there,
Mm-hmm.
and then the only other safety mechanism is you holding on to the spoon. Once you let go of the spoon, once you pull the pin, there's no return. You
Yeah.
have to let go of the spoon, and it has to blow. My so my friend is holding this thing, and we're just thinking about it. We haven't even thought, and I just pulled the pin. Bold and dumb and brave.
Yep.
It's just more dumb than anything else. I just pulled the pin.
Yeah. There's no going back on this one.
And he's like, "What did you do?" I was like, "You're just gonna have to toss it in the hole before they stop mortaring us." He tossed it in the hole. We ran, and it, and it, of course, it worked. So we thought, well, it was masked. The sound of it was masked over the mortars.
Well, of course, the grenade itself worked.
That mask. Well, this huge cloud of CS gas went up and over the hill and down into the tents,
And you could watch it
and we ran. We ran on the backside, and we got into our tents. And unfortunately, like we purposely mixed up in the CS gas so we could cover that.
the whole time. Mm-hmm.
We're like, oh, everyone's like putting on their mask or gas. So everyone thought maybe one of those mortars had gas in it.
Mm-hmm.
And but then I don't know whatever happened with that. So we left it. We were like, yeah, pretending we put on our gas. I don't know whatever happened. Like there should have been like, I don't know. We never heard anything else. There should have been an investigation. Usually there is, because it's not typical for an enemy to shoot CS gas at you. So they're wondering where this stuff came from.
Don't worry, in a week you'll get somebody knocking on your door.
I mean, we never got found out. I don't understand. Well, I mean, I'm sure the hole caved in, the actual device, the leftovers.
Mm-hmm. They know now.
They definitely have to know now, but we were long gone.
Yeah.
I was basically out of the Marine Corps, I'm sure, by the time they figured that out.
Mm-hmm. Well, the statute of limitations was run out, so I think
It was. And so we get back, and and now it's back to civilian life again. Now it's back to life. Now we got to get back to life. And it's like, how do we do that?
Yeah, you got to flip that switch again.
Now we got to flip the switch.
Trying to figure that out.
And so we come back.
I think that that's something that I think we're gonna have to take this into a part 3. Um, let's focus on you come home. Like,
Yeah.
how do you come to Christ, and how does that factor into everything that you've just experienced?
Yeah.
So when you guys come back next week again, we'll wrap it up with Josh, and we'll hear that. And we'll hear how Christ redeemed all of that.
Yeah.
Even the tear gas grenade.
Yeah. Even that was just insane, man. I don't know. Understand that one.
All right. Thanks, y'all. We'll see y'all next week.
Thank you.